Hello, this is our process improvement on procrastination poster. This is presented by Leah Davis and Chelsie Isom, and this is in fulfillment at Eastern Washington University for Professor Swope's class. First, let's start with our aim statement. Our aim for this project was that within the next 2 months from when we started, we would decrease our procrastination in schoolwork as shown by reducing late assignments, completing homework in advance of due date, and eliminating environmental distractions to enable us to study a goal of 2 hours per day.
So to do this, we had to collect our data. So each of us self-reported. We kept track of how many assignments we had each week, if we turned them in early, late, or on time, how many hours per day we had set aside time to study and do our schoolwork. And then at the end, every week we sent each other our data so we could keep track and add to our graphs on a weekly basis. After that, the first step was to get our baseline figured out. That was before we implemented any of our PDSA cycles. We just did school as we normally do, and we determined how distracted we were, the quality of our time spent on homework, how often we were turning in assignments late or on time. And then that was our baseline to figure out how we needed to make change in what areas for each of us, and then to start our data collection for the next 9 weeks.
So some ways that we were able to limit our distractions in order to hit that 2 hours per day, 4 hours combined for us of study time. It was 14 hours of the week. And so we found it most successful by doing things like turning off our cell phones or putting them on silent, creating kind of a dedicated study area. For us that had little kids, we would find childcare or do it maybe after they were down for a nap or at school or in bed. We would also do specific things like turning off the TV and just carving out a time in our day where that was appropriate for us to get done the work that we knew we needed to.
So once we figured out how we could get quality time for schoolwork, that enabled us to really focus on our assignments. And the point of this was to be proactive, not reactive. We wanted our assignments either on time or early, preferably. So for us to make these graphs for this project, we really needed to find a way to give these assignments a numeric value. And so we decided that late assignments would be worth 10 points. If we turned an assignment in on time, it would be 5 points. And if it was early, an early submission, it would get 1 point. So the lower the score, the better. And then at the end of our 10 weeks, we figured out how many assignments on average we had per week. And then from there, if we wanted our goal of 75%, at least on time, we were able to find the average weekly amount of assignments, do a little bit of math, and get our goal score of 30. So that was numerically how we decided to track our progress. We really wanted to stay at that line that we created of 30 points or less, which would even be better.
So yeah, kind of like how Leah was explaining, how we did overall was really good. The majority of our project met our goal of turning in the 75% and earning those 30 points or total, as she explained on the graph. About halfway through our project, there was an increase in late or on-time assignments, which was more likely correlated with the midterm quarter exhaust and near spring break and everything. After 10 weeks of making solid effort to change our procrastination habits, we feel we succeeded, in adopting new behaviors, and we'll continue to use these skills in the future. It was personally for me really interesting to see how we just kept increasing and improving and continuing on our growth. And it was kind of fun to challenge ourselves, I think, to hit the 2-hour mark, turning in the assignments early. It was a lot of fun, and I feel like overall we really hit it when it came to our goals with this.
I would agree with that. I think something I learned personally is I do have a bit of a competitive nature. So when Chelsie would send me her data and she would just be killing everything, super early, or so much time was spent studying, it really kind of helped motivate me that, I would have, instead of 75% of my assignments on time, they would be early. So I did learn that about me. So I think I did better probably in this project with her than I would have alone. Um, and I think that kind of helps me going forward. If I want to make personal change, I need to find out what outside factors are influencing my behavior. I also need to learn how to self-motivate maybe a little bit better. But I do think I can use this not just for my personal life, but obviously career-wise. Um, the whole doing things early rather than last minute just kind of frees up our time for self-care, I would say, rather than spending that time frantically trying to get assignments or work done. If I do it in advance rather than later, it's kind of amazing how much time I feel like I've freed up for myself, even though I'm probably spending the same amount of time. If I do it early rather than later, it's just better quality time. So I think that's what I learned the most, and how I will use this going forward.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm very competitive too. I always have been. And so I even just like I wanted to challenge myself even. I was just thinking like, okay, well, I'm a pretty organized person. So if I could really just incorporate my organization skills and my process improvement skills that I'm learning and finding out a way how I can just each week be a little bit better than the last, I thought was just really beneficial. And I'm planning to be a physician assistant in the future. And so I think that being able to incorporate process improvement and recognize a problem, evaluate it, create a plan, follow the plan through, and see the changes that occur or maybe don't occur, I think will be beneficial in my care with my patients. It will be beneficial in my outside life with my family and myself. I'm kind of excited to also teach my children these skills when they're older to see how it helps them in their study habits and their schooling, and whatever else. So I feel like I learned a lot more from this project than I anticipated going in. And I felt like it was really beneficial, and it was ultimately fun to complete as well, and to see how we were both growing and learning and just gaining new skills in the sense that we need for our jobs in the future.
I think it was interesting at the beginning of our project. By week 2, we made such a huge change, both of us. It was like we were perfect students immediately. And I do think it was the competitiveness in us, but also just being cognizant of our behavior and how we are turning in assignments kind of last minute. And then, about halfway through, we took that dive. And I think that's just human nature. When you're doing a long project, you're going to have, after that early motivation spike, it's going to drop for a minute. And then when we kind of saw the end, the last few weeks, we kicked it into overdrive again, because I know I wanted to end this on a positive note. But I do think that momentum will keep going for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So
Most
I did
definitely.
find that interesting.
Most definitely. So we do have some references listed in the bottom left-hand corner that we used in regards to our change ideas. And Leah, if you have anything else to add.
No, I think that's it for me.
Perfect. And we just want to thank you for taking the time to take a look at our poster and listen to our presentation. Thank you.
Thanks.